All right, looks like we are live.
Yay. And yes, I did bring my weighted stuffing because why not?
Yeah. All right,
Finally.
yes, we are back with Films and Fandoms with Kaylee and Alex, and this time we're going back to Leverage, season 2, episode 3, the Order 23 job. So this is definitely a kind of oddly prevalent episode given what happened. Actually, when we started this podcast, that was like right at the height, or when I started this podcast, I guess or I guess we kind of when I started, and then I let you on, and then you kind of stuck around. But yeah, it was at the height of COVID,
Yep.
and now, I mean, it's obviously still prevalent, but
I mean, it's not as rampant, I
yeah,
guess you could say.
yeah,
And I apologize in advance, guys, if you hear me clear my throat. I'm kind of under
yeah,
the weather, but I wanted
yeah,
to do this.
sick at the moment, but she wanted to do this still. Okay, so before we get started with this episode, I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor, nafco.org, for all they've done to help us. So, all right. So, as I said, the episode we're going to be talking about is the Order 23 job, which is season 2, episode 3. And a summary for this episode is the team took over a hospital and faked an outbreak to take down a hedge fund manager about to go to jail so they could find where he hid his clients' money. And the director for this episode is Rod Hardy. And the director for this episode is Rod Hardy. And the writers for this episode are the good old duo of John Rogers and Chris Downey.
Uh,
So
and you know it's going to be a good episode when those two partner up.
especially the way John Rogers has been using his Blue Sky account. That's the new social media. Let's just say it is very obvious he wrote most of these episodes, if you and why he wrote some of these episodes the way he did when you read it. But starting off with the intro, I just wanted to fucking punch Eddie because that's who our client is, or that's who our victim is, I guess, this episode. Or not victim, Mark. Sorry, the
Ugh.
Mark for this episode is Eddie Morangian. He's just the fucking sleaziest asshole. Hey, woman. I heard that.
I don't know. What? Sorry, I'm playing on my phone. I do that all the time.
Okay.
Pretty much
Yeah.
every podcast that we've done, I've been playing on my phone.
Yeah. Okay. That's actually valid. Okay. So this episode, basically, so we start off. So Eddie is getting his sentence, and he's basically getting a lighter sentence because he's a snitch,
Of course.
which pisses everybody off, including the judge.
I would not be surprised. Like, come on.
So, yeah, so we meet our client, Ronald, as he's in like the gallery of the courtroom. And he goes to pull out a gun like he wants to shoot fucking Eddie. I don't blame him.
That's an
Yeah.
idiot move.
But luckily, Nate's able to grab his hand before he can actually reveal the gun and take him out of the court. Well, take him out of the courtroom, but not before Ron gets to punch him out, which I think he deserved as a treat. And though I must say, so the part that gets me, and I've heard one idea about this, is how did Ron get a gun in a courtroom?
Plastic gun.
It was not plastic. It was not plastic. It was like a normal gun. But later in this episode, we find out that there's like corruption. So that's like one speculation
Or
is,
he could have bribed one of the guards to turn the metal detector off as he
or
walked
just
through.
went into a different entrance and just didn't get through the metal detector. I don't know.
Or that.
But we should probably start saying this before we get SWAT rolling in here. Yeah,
Oh
because
no.
I've gone through two different types of security: airport security and prison security. I'm not going to explain why I've been through prison security. I promise I was not the one in orange, but I work at an airport, so I've gone through airport security a bunch.
I mean, as someone who set up the metal detectors at a little bitty airport in South Carolina with her fucking pants.
Oh, was it the buttons?
Nope. Had little balls all down my jeans.
Ah,
Like
yep, that'll do it.
like punk rock. Yeah. And then the GSA lady could tell by the look on my face I was fucking terrified. So it's kind of funny now. I laugh at it now. She moved me off to the side to do the pat down, and I was looking over her shoulder the entire time. I wasn't making eye contact.
No,
I was like, "Nope, I ain't doing this." And she could tell. I was like, "It's not that bad, huh?" And she explained what she was gonna do,
at
and
least
I just stared over
that
her shoulder,
that was helpful.
and I was
That
like,
was
I was trying
nice.
not to have a fucking panic attack. I was panicking.
No.
And then she's like, "This is your first time in there." I go, "Yes, ma'am." She goes, "It's not that bad. I've seen way worse. I've had." And she told me she saw somebody with a stabby up their bra trying to look like sneak it in on the plane. Yeah,
I
and
don't
then
have
another one with a little bottle of booze.
I don't have the cleavage for that shit. So that's why I can't do it.
But yeah, she was really nice, but yeah, I proceeded to cry for a little bit because it scared me.
Oh.
That was the first and only time I ever wore metal pants. Anything on my jeans.
Yeah, unfortunately, going through prison security multiple times, yeah, kind of learn better. But
Well, I had just
again,
bought them and I wanted to wear them.
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, not specifying why I had to go through prison security. I promise I was not the one in orange. But so back to the episode. So basically, we get kind of like why Ron tried to shoot Eddie, and basically we find out that or we find out Nate and Hardison one know who he is. He's the brother of one of Eddie's victims, and Hardison reveals that there was some money that the feds couldn't find that Eddie claimed to be like gotten rid of, but Hardison basically calls bullshit on that. Says like, nope, he's got the money. He's just stashed it somewhere. We're gonna find it so we can pay back his victims. Of course, then Nate looks at it and it's like, I mean, I get hating the guy, but shooting him, I mean, he's a thief, not a murderer. And then Ron goes into this whole thing about how like his sister or like Eddie's treatment to his sister and how her and her husband weren't like big shots. But they trusted Eddie because he was Armenian like them. I get now. I don't know a lot about Armenian culture, but given that line, I would presume that it's one of those cultures where there's like big family units where like
Yeah, it's basically. I don't
where
know if
like
you know anything about like like German and Irish culture, but Armenian culture is very, very family oriented, almost like a cult, pretty much in some instances.
Yeah, it's a little bit like I had, I work with a lot of like Latino and even like I had a Filipino coworker, and by my understanding and interacting with them, they're also one of those cultures that like have a big culture around family.
And that's actually really awesome. I wish we
Mhm.
had that more here.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Or at least where family values mattered more.
yeah, yeah,
Or just connection values in a way of like
yeah,
friendships and that sort of thing.
yeah. Yeah, I haven't. Yeah, we're gonna move on before I depress myself further. But so basically, Ron's sister ended up getting sick, but she didn't tell anybody because she didn't want to be a burden. Ended up passing away in a hospital bed. It didn't have to happen. So of course, Nate's a little triggered because he's thinking of his son and all that. But so we go and they're all the team's all meeting in the courthouse. And they're in like oh the jury pool? No. Ju-
Um.
the where the jurors sit. The seating
Oh,
where the jury
it's
sit.
it's not the jury box, but it's kind of like the jury section
We'll
towards the
call it
front.
we'll call it the jury box.
Yeah.
We'll call it the jury box. So
Basically
basically
the area where all the jurors sit before they go sit in the box, in the actual like where the benches and everything. Yeah, I there's a technical term for it, but I forgot, and I should be ashamed of myself because I watch a lot of Dr. Bull, the TV show.
yeah,
That's trial science. I should know this.
yeah.
That's so stupid.
Alright, so we find out that Eddie is being sent to this like really lavish. You good?
Yeah, damn it! Don't make me laugh. That's what happens.
I'm sorry. Okay, so basically, we find out Eddie is being sent to this white collar prison. Which, yeah, which is basically for like criminals who get arrested because of like fraud and like non-violent people.
Yeah, more of like if you kind of
Like,
okay. I have to bring this up because it kind of ties into the episode, and there's a mention of this, which
yes,
I
that's what I was getting.
love.
At. You can take it. You
I
can
have
take
to,
it.
I have to mention this.
Yep, you
Um,
can take
there is a reference to a TV show. Well, like this
the
company,
movie
and it's also a movie.
on a true story of it.
Called based on an actual true story written by one of the former employees of this company called Enron, based in Austin, Texas,
Yep,
and it's a financial company. Um,
yep.
and
Who basically got caught
they
doing some
the
shady
top
thing.
dogs of that were gambling the money from the investors. It's an investing like investment banking sort of stock market company.
Yeah,
Investing the money
I
in
don't
like
give a shit
gambling and
saying
all
what.
sorts of shitty stuff, messing up the books on purpose and then fudging the numbers. And they eventually went bankrupt in
Because
2001. They filed for bankruptcy.
so
And
basically,
this was like big. And they even made a movie about it. And Christian was that
yeah,
played Brian.
crookedy
If
the crookedy
you haven't seen it, go watch it.
the truth or the truth
Yeah,
about Enron.
the Unshredded Truth. And it's
And
based off of there's a mention of
it's
this kind of.
book he wrote about what had happened. And ironically, that is the first time I think one of Christian Kane's songs has
got
been
used. Yeah,
because More Than I Deserve.
I cried.
Yeah, okay. Look, I was thinking about this actually like couple weeks ago when I was doing my notes for this. Again, I was an idiot and forgot I had scheduled this earlier. That's what happened. I will admit. But I was literally like thinking this where I was like, this is how like pre-leverage Christian Kane did a lot of romance.
And to me, I'll admit, he was pretty damn good in that movie.
And
every now and again, there was one part where, like, there was one part toward the middle of the movie where he argues with his fiance and is a dick. I'm like, boy, come here, come here.
Yeah.
I want to beat your ass.
Because he's getting all caught up in like
the money and everything. And he's like, money.
What? And he literally goes to his fiance's farm, gets her back.
Yep.
And then in the background is Christian Kane's song "More Than I Deserve."
Yep. But I will say, it was toward the end. He goes back to her dad's farm.
Yeah, that's where she's staying.
A horse farm, by the way.
I know. That's what I was literally about to get into. Was the irony of that song.
I laughed so hard, but
Elliot is what Elliot
to get her back. He goes to her dad's place, and he apologizes to her, and she just looks at him, full like hard eyes, and I go, "Oh, well, yes, you made it better. You fixed your problem."
I mean, I would too.
Try to.
Christian Kane was giving me those eyes.
I would be on the floor laughing. I would honestly be on the floor laughing hysterically. And that is also, it goes to show you he can play the jerk and he can also play a sweetheart. In that moment, he was kind of a bit of a both. But I will say, the car that they drove off in,
and then it does reveal that like at the end of the movie, it is like revealed that he and Mark and his fiance did end up getting married and moving on from like everything.
Yeah, and he even, and then Brian also, like, he wrote a book about what happened to kind of deal with it, and I looked into it, and it had sat on a shelf in his office for a few months, and then one of his former buddies from Enron said, "Hey," he read it. He's like, "Hey, you should publish this," and he did. And then it got picked up by.
But it's funny how Christian Kane went from kind of like he was in a lot of romance pre-leverage.
I know, it was awesome.
But here's my other thing. I don't know if Christian Kane actually liked doing that, and let me explain. So
there's one that he hated. There's one that he hated.
Well, I'll get into that. Well, Elliot is fine. Hardison says, he's playing frisbee with the guys from Enron, and Elliot's like, I hate those guys.
I know.
And the next time we get a line like that from Christian Kane, one of Christian Kane's characters, is in The Librarians, the internal and the internal contract, or no.
I know it's a Librarians episode. I can't remember which one, but
episode where basically
those lines and it's freaking hilarious.
Or it's about like people being turned into vampires at this like retreat, and so Kane, of course, has to fight vampires. And then what's funny is he finds out they're vampires. He's like, I hate vampires, and like makes a fist with his hand. The same one as character Lindsay McDonald and Angel. And he has said multiple times how he
hand issues. I love that boy.
Not saying the joke about my head.
But I will say, okay. But I will say, hey, there's one thing I forgot to bring up real quick. The type of scheme that their Mark is notorious for, and what also happened in Enron are Ponzi schemes, basically, kind of like small schemes like that. And those things are part of the white collar crime, like your financial crimes and all that sort of stuff.
It's basically
But and it's
kind of
kind
like
of funny. It was like they are dealing with something opposite of what they're used to, because they're used to dealing with mobsters and blue collar crime type of stuff and getting their hands in the nitty gritty sort of thing. But
yeah.
it's fun to see that white collar crime represented.
Yeah.
I love it. I loved it. It made me so happy. I might even go rewatch the episodes after this.
Yeah. So basically, so continuing on, so we're not stuck on this forever. Basically, Nate realizes that Eddie is a big old germaphobe. So he has the perfect con. So basically, they get Parker to drug Eddie using a poison, or it's Rohypnol on a string. And that is actually a reference to the James Bond movie, You
Yep.
Only Live Twice.
Oh, and also,
I was a huge James Bond fan when I was younger, so I thought
I saw that, and then when I went back and watched that clip, I immediately started laughing. I'm like,
I'm mad at myself. I couldn't watch the audio commentary. I was
I
mad
couldn't
at
find
myself.
my DVD to watch the audio commentary, listen to the audio commentary.
I have my DVDs, but my damn DVD player died. Though I never checked to see if my PlayStation could play it. Because if my PlayStation could play it, then I'd be set.
It could, it should be able to.
Or I'd test it out.
But I will say, was it the Bellbridge courthouse, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, like the town. That was actually in two other episodes.
The part
The
1
town.
and part 2.
Yeah, the town. Yeah. Bellbridge. Season 2, episode 14, Three Strikes Job, which I love that episode. And then the Melting Falcon job. That one, holy.
I can't wait till we get to the Tara episodes. It's gonna be so fun.
But yeah, I love that they go and like not necessarily revisit towns, but have the town kind of play a part in like multiple episodes, like Boston and a couple of others. But that was fun.
All right, carry on. So basically, Nate plays the doctor who's on jury duty, and he sets it up so the marshals who are watching Eddie while he's being transferred they get him to take him to the hospital. No idea what the medical jargon is. I'm not know a while, but I had to.
That's
It was
funny.
right there.
That is
It
fun.
was right there. It was right there.
I know you went.
It was too easy. But our rally.
We love you, Noah.
Yes, we love you, Noah. Please come to Pittsburgh. Again, but so yeah, so our rallying cry this episode: let's go steal us a hospital. So, as Sherlock Holmes would say, the game is afoot.
I apologize. I have my window open, so the train sound's going to be a little bit louder. I apologize.
Very good. So basically, they get to the hospital and they're setting up. They take over one of the abandoned, or not abandoned, but an unused wing in the hospital that they mainly use for storage, so they have full control over it.
Yep.
What's funny though is I wish Perry Landrell was on here, or in some of you might know him as Perry Pines, because he's a big sound guy because he owns a soundboard. As by the other episodes he's been on, where he's I know
I'm kind of glad
we're
he's
not,
not. I'm kind of glad
we're
he's not on here.
we're not going to talk about that, but I mean, he'll appreciate the soundboard that Hardison made because even has it so like footsteps going like forward and then footsteps going back by just driving the cursor. The different like pre-recorded sound effects. Though what's funny is Elliot and Hardison arguing over this fucking shirt because Hardison's argument is like, I need to breathe. Like I can't be wearing no like small neck. The Elliot's like, no, like I gotta wear my scrubs underneath the uniform. I need a bigger neck. Which as a theater kid, that is valid. That is valid of Elliot to want the bigger neck, especially if he has to do a quick change. Though what's funny is the blooper. There's the blooper of that particular scene. Elliot goes to Christian, I guess, goes to pull the shirt off of Alex's hands. Somebody fucks up, I forget who. And then Kane just breaks down laughing and leaves.
No,
And he's like, why don't you
no.
go your hair? And
And
I'm
all
pretty
what
sure
happened? What happened? He reaches
still
for the shirt and goes to pull it, and there's a slight ripping sound from the shirt.
I don't know how I missed that, but I must have missed it. But
No,
all
but
I
they
know,
had muted it, but something happened. I watched the shirt and something happened to it. And the boys make eye contact and Christian walks away laughing.
and that's when I was just like, why don't you go perm your hair? And you can see the come out.
I couldn't stop laughing. That pooper. Because like you can see the moment before Christian breaks. He's all stoic and then you just see like his eye twitch. Like he's starting to like break character.
Uh-huh. I love
Oh,
that.
I love those moments.
And then so basically Nate gets them together. And what's funny is Elliot, so in the actual scene, Elliot comes back. Earhart is and it's like, you know, a boy is just a cat, or no, what does he say? Like, oh no, a cowboy is just a bully with low self-esteem. And Elliot turns his mouth like, the
Oh.
fuck you say? You want to say it again? And Earhart, what? You know, my insecure ass is going to be wearing the shirt.
I love that. It's like
You know, hard,
boys. It's
like,
like boys, you have a job to do. Quit bickering. It's like boys, you have a job to do. Quit bickering. And it's like, how many times did they have to do that scene? I just want to know. I just want to know how many times.
Christians. It's look at Elliot like, you want to say that again?
I mean, he said that in some form or other. He's like,
He said,
excuse me?
what was that? What was that? And I was like, what? It's like, my insecure ass is going to be wearing the shirt.
But that is like iconic. Like, that's like a brotherly moment right there between the two of them, and I love it.
So, for context, Hardison and Elliot are basically going to be cops who are assisting the feds with this transfer. However, a few of them are playing multiple parts. So, in this case, it's Sophie and Elliot, which is why Elliot wants the bigger neck because he's got to wear scrubs underneath his police uniform. So, when they get to the point in the con where they need him to be medical staff, he can just take off his cop uniform and the scrubs will be on and he's good to go. I know how to do a quick change, trust me. I had to, when I did like 7 years ago now, which is fucking crazy to think that that's how long ago it was. But anyways, I had to play 3 separate characters. And ironically, Sophie bitches about playing multiple characters later on. But I had to play 3 characters. One, I had to go from being a woman to a man. wearing this fucking ugly ass brown lipstick that was sticky as fuck, and I had to like wipe it off, but it ended up smearing, so it looked like I had a goddamn 5 o'clock shadow. So I ended up getting the lipstick changed before the show, which thank fuck I did. And then I had to play like someone else at a masquerade. But it was the worst show I have ever done. That really made me go to theater. So anyways,
I remember you told me about that. I could not stop laughing.
oh yeah. I think me and you became friends like after it. I think we
But you
became
had
friends.
told me about like
Yeah,
your
I
work
told you that.
experience,
Yeah, with being
most
doing theater.
embarrassing experience, I should say.
Uh-huh. Because what made it suck was the
I couldn't
director
stop
like,
laughing,
almost took it too
honestly.
seriously with the whole Shakespeare aspect. Which yeah, if this was an actual like major Globe Theater production, I would understand that. But this was a small town in 10 fucking 2. It did not need to be that serious.
Oh man, that's funny.
I felt really sleep deprived, which made it worse. Yeah, so basically, guys, carrying on. Parker gets Eddie to the MRI. They get him to the hospital wing, make planting the idea in his head that he's got something contagious. Hardison and Parker, or
Oh
Hardison and
man,
Ellie, they
does it have the spinny thing with the giant fucking syringe in this episode?
no, that was in
Ah,
season 1.
but that's the second. That's the
It-
second time we see Elliot in Scrubs.
oh yes, Ellie and Scrubs. That's a good point.
Perfect. I love
Yeah.
that.
Well, in this case,
But I
he's in
will
a
say that the
co-
acting in this
this
episode was
part.
hilarious.
This point, he's in a cop uniform, but he does have scrub. He will be in Scrubs in a few minutes, but and then maybe this gets it was I like the moment that Elliot clocks the abuse kid, because like it says it's like as soon as he locks eyes onto that kid, you
His older
know,
brother, honestly, I call it the older brother instinct. He's like, something's not right here.
yeah, like the protector. That's what it is. He's a
Yeah.
protector.
And I kind of
Because
cried a little bit seeing that look in
yeah,
his eye.
yeah, because you can see like the little boy, and then like Elliot like immediately clocking it, and then he is like distracted the entire fucking job because of it. No, Eddie making dirty jokes with handcuffs. And it's like, buy me dinner first. Like, be more original with your handcuff jokes.
I forgot about that. But, I mean, come on. It's funny.
Don't
And
read
kind
my
of
fan.
stupid. It's like, yeah, come up with something original. Oh, wait, you can't because you're an idiot.
we mean Eddie. We mean Eddie. We mean Eddie. By the way, we mean Eddie.
Yep.
But Sophie as Bridget with like the Long Island. I am Bridget. Smacking the gum.
Oh, I hated that. That pissed me off a little bit.
Yeah, but also she's like, and she's saying, it's like, oh, are you a hot case or something? It's like, well, I am good. She's like, yeah. Can you send a message to my ex? Actually, it's some photos of me. And then she implies about like the way she like rubs on her body that it's like naked photos. And it's like, oh, this is fan fucking tastic. Like, that's about to change really fucking quick, buddy.
Props to Gina though with that acting. That was freaking
Yeah,
hilarious.
that was pretty.
I giggled. I giggled watching that. I was like,
You know what? Bridget is actually kind of up there. with my top favorite Gina Bellman
I
covers.
know there's one where
Should
there's
say.
one con that she does her
Favorite, but
normal accent, but
my
thickens it
favorite.
just a little bit, makes it more pronounced. And I love
Uh,
it. That made my brain vibrate like perfectly.
I love the femme fatale, so I love Annie Croy. That's my favorite Sophie cover. And so Nate later, carrying on. So Nate is explaining neuro-linguistic programming, and basically he's going to scare the shit out of Eddie without actually scaring the shit out of Eddie.
Yeah. And basically that's actually a pseudoscience that it's
Yeah,
just it's a simple kind of like sleight of hand, but with words instead of action. It's it's word brain tricks basically. You're tricking somebody's head by repetition of certain phrases and everything. It's an actual fun fact. It's an actual CIA tactic that they use on
mhm,
operations.
yeah.
Because I have an app on my phone that former CIA guy talks about it, and I'm like, oh, that's scary.
Yeah. All right, carry on. So yeah, and basically how Nate does this is by using the soundboard and suggesting symptoms. Because Sophie, as Bridges, she's also like scratching her like arm,
Yeah.
and their fucking stories. She's like, "Hey there, I'm gonna go to the jukebox and I see the skank Parker herself on my bar stool. Nothing to the bartender. He's like, hey, back me up here.
And I couldn't with that. It was just I was laughing the entire time.
So this next moment is funny. Is Elliot and Hardison are waiting outside the MRI machine, or they're outside the MRI machine with one of the FBI agents, Bob, and an emergent trauma starts coming in. And Bob stops the one nurse and is like, hey, like, we have a prisoner in there. And there's like he's gonna have to wait. Like, we just had the bus crash come in. And you can see the exact moment when like Bob and Charlie run in to, or no, Bob runs into the MRI machine, and you can see Elliot. He like bangs his head back against the wall, like ah hell, and Hardison looks out to you like ah hell. Because they just got bust. Well, not busted per se, but their timetable gets moved up because they quickly realize that Eddie's not actually in the MRI machine. So Elliot is able to stall him by being like, hey, like that's not really the right move to play right now. Like he's got to be still inside the hospital. Let's go check the cameras.
Yep.
Saves them some time. Of course, it's like, all right, now time to move it up. Sophie escalate things. Elliot lose the scrubs or use the uniform. Wrong border. What is it?
The phrasing.
I'm gonna blame the coffee. Move on. Shut up. So, okay, this scene's actually pretty cool though. So basically, Sophie fakes having an episode, and like Nate, Parker, and Elliot, they all run in and they like pretend to save her by using the shadows in order to like act like they're trying to resuscitate Sophie. So, like, it goes back and forth between, like, show and how they, like, are doing, like, exaggerated movements with the shadows to make Eddie freak the fuck out, and he does.
And then there's one with Parker.
Eh,
She hit Sophie with something.
or that there was the fib pads.
Yeah.
But and actually, I actually know of something similar being used in a show I did where it was called Morzo Reclining. And it was a scene where basically this character, uh, or it's based on played by Edouard Manet in one of his paintings, Morzo Reclining, and like the story behind it. And there's he's painting a woman nude that we didn't actually have anyone nude on stage. What we did was we had her behind a screen shown like a big ass backlight so it would light up shadows on the screen
Kind of
to
like
make it
basically a
seem
silhouette
that
of her standing there.
she was all natural. Her silhouette implied she was all natural as he was painting her, which I think is nice because she had a robe on, but she could have like a bra on and no one would really notice. And no, she could have like she can be covered and not have to worry about anyone actually seeing her naked, which I appreciate, especially during a time when intimacy coordinators were still new in the industry. And because that's actually the people who, in reality, or that's like people whose job it is to do that. And that's what they're literally called is intimacy coordinators. They make sure all parties are comfortable and boundaries are enforced while working with the director to make sure the vision.
And also provide modesty garments for both actors and make
Yes.
sure they're comfortable the entire time, checking in with them and making sure if they need to stop, they can stop.
Yeah, and
Which
like
is
making sure there's
important.
an barrier between them.
Yeah.
Make sure, they're because it can be, if you think about it, you see like a hot and sexy, sex scene on TV, but in reality,
It's very awkward and not sexy at
it's
all.
not when people standing around watching because you got the boom operator holding the big ass boomstick, you got camera people in your space, you got the director watching to make sure it
Yeah,
looks
watching the
good.
monitors and also watching what you guys are doing.
Yeah, and you could
And
have 2 or 3 camera people in a scene. You can get 2 or 3 boom people filming a scene to get different angles to make sure they get good.
that actually reminds me of what was it? I think it was the Jensen Ackles little side note. It was one of his projects. He was like, "Yeah, that was one of the most awkward things we could ever do is the sex scene." I was so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it was from the Supernatural episode, but it wasn't full like nudity. He was wearing jeans, and he was like, "Yeah, I was covering her to make sure she was comfortable." And we were still awkward because there was a boom operator, and then there was a camera guy, and
Yeah,
camera guy
yeah.
watching them.
There's some stories that actresses have come out. I think after Katherine Heigl has come out about this where, like, it was, like, super uncomfortable. Like, it can get super uncomfortable to film or no, actually, Jeffrey Dean Morgan's wife, Hillary Burton, I just saw her a recent post with it was Val Kilmer, or it was like a tribute to Val Kilmer, and she talks about how like she was on like a very uncomfortable set, and she was supposed to be filming a sex scene with them. And she was super uncomfortable doing it, and Val knew this. So instead of like filming the actual like sex scene, they ended up eating ribs to
Because Val was like, "Yeah,
pounds.
we're not doing this if you're not
Yeah,
comfortable with
he was
it."
like,
I
we're not doing it.
understand. He told her, "I understand. I get where you're
Yeah,
coming from."
yeah, we're not doing this. So
It's
here's what
like
we'll God
sometimes
damn
you
it, Coda. Stop knocking my shit over. Did I where the hell? Hold on. Sorry, my fucking cat knocked over my earbuds that I had on my table. Alright, so
anyway.
moving on. Respect the intimacy coordinators on set. Anyways, so Hardison decides he's gonna lift the pockets of the marshal to see if he can. I'm assuming he's trying to find a way to stall him while they're like setting up this like investigative thing. And Hardison finds 2 sets of car keys, which is odd. And Elliot gets distracted by the abused kid again. And what's and Nate reveals how sadistic he can be. And Sophie finding it oddly attractive how sadistic he can be. Which
Honestly, I found it kind of impressive, actually.
Yeah.
How crazy he can be.
Yeah.
And unhinged.
Yeah, because he's like pleased with himself that he's given this guy a nosebleed and scaring the absolute fuck out of him. And Booker's like, is it just me or has Nick gotten a little sadistic since he got sober? So he's like, is it just me or does that make him more attractive? It's like, Sophie, why? But anyways, Hardison discovers that the car the one Marshall drove is a rental. Confusing. And Elliot gets distracted by the abuse kid again, so he doesn't immediately respond to Hardison. It's like, Elliot, quit staring at the nurses. And Elliot is like,
I mean, to be honest, when Elliot was in those scrubs, I was staring at him. Oh, shit. Did I say that out loud?
yes, you did. And you can't take it back.
Damn it.
Good. Right.
I am so sorry.
You're all right. Okay.
Ugh.
Elliot.
I breathed wrong.
So Elliot takes the comment. You think as many times as shit's gone wrong as someone took their damn calm out, you think that would be, you know what? That's what's in
Rule number
Hardison's.
1, don't do that.
That's what's in Hardison's binders for the leverage teams. That's rule 1 in the handbook. Don't take out your daggum calm.
Well, I mean, there have been plenty of times that Hardison's done it.
Has Hardison taken out
Yeah,
his
he has. There was one time in particular that I can think of that he did. It was for a stupid reason. You'll remember it when we're not on. You'll go back and remember. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah. At one point, they've each
the Mile High drop.
Yeah. At one point, they've each taken out their earbud at one point on a con.
Yeah, but take the com out. We don't mean someone else has discovered the com and takes it out and destroys it.
Yeah.
Or like the com falls out and like something. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about
it's like they've taken it out.
Consciously took out the com.
Yep.
I know. Yeah, Nate.
There's been several times each of the teammates have done it.
I don't know if you would count Hardison Mile High job, because he was technically late to the job. He didn't take his comm out. He was just late to the job.
That's not the episode I'm thinking of, but it
Parker
was an
has like
episode where Harrison was partnered up with Chaos. Took out his comm to talk to Chaos about something. And in Lucille, he takes his comm out for a brief second.
yeah, but so anyways, Elliot takes this kid's dad to the stairwell and his dad was like, how did he break his arm? And dad's like, fell off a skateboard. It's like that, and then immediately like gets in action, pinning him against the rail, and is like, yeah, like he points out like how old the one bruise is and how old the other bruise is, and then it's like ask, like you could ask him. And it's like, well, so I could see how well his daddy taught him to lie, and like literally has him like
That
over.
was kind of hot, actually. I have to admit, when Elliot pins him with his arm up against the railing, I was like, "Ooh, that's hot."
And that's what I did. So I made a promo video for this episode that got like, it's at like 19K. Is it at 19?
Yep.
Now I'm curious to see what it got out. What's at now? Yep, it's at 21K. It blew the fuck up. But, okay. Yeah, but the interesting tactic that this guy does is he's like, well, it's like, what? Just because I show my son a firm hand, that makes me a bad dad? Like half the guys in here don't even see their kid.
Oh, that pissed me off.
It's
He's
like
trying to justify what he's doing to his child.
justifying hitting your kid because you're around. As someone who had an absent father, I can confirm most of my issues come from the fact that my father was around. So,
But yeah, I mean, you can see it. You can see it on Elliot's face. He doesn't really buy that. He's like, I don't buy your shit. I'm not buying what you're selling, dude.
So he grabs the guy's ID and is like, I'm keeping my eye on you, and lets the guy go.
That was kind of hot, actually. Watching him like intimidate the guy to make him like freeze.
Yeah. So this scene I want to get into, and I'll explain why. So this scene to me, and I think a lot of Leverage fans, is seemingly the scene that confirmed that Elliot grew up in an abusive household. We all thought it was his bio dad, or like maybe like a bio dad or a bio mom, someone. However, in the Fracture Job, we obviously meet Elliot's adopted dad, played by the legendary Keith David.
Oh, I love that man. He's awesome. But
what I want to know,
but to see kind of,
yeah,
Elliot had two kind of crappy dads. Well, kind of struggle moments with his dads. His biological dad didn't want him, basically.
And his adopted
dad was too hard on him because he didn't want him to turn out like he did. Yeah. But I'm like, oh, that hurt so bad. I'm like, I can relate to that episode.
I want to get into more of the characterization. So not only do we find out that Elliot's adopted, which is also interesting, consider Sophie and Hardison are also foster kids.
Yep.
But it doesn't seem to apply in Redemption, and I do think this in the Fracture Job, that I don't think Billy Spencer was actually abusive to Elliot. I do think Billy was a good dad. Maybe a bit of a hard man to get along with, and maybe a bit harder on Elliot than he should have been. which is probably what
Well, he
caused
was
him to
probably he
like
was probably more
isolate.
of way that I would see it. He was probably more of like a drill sergeant sort of father, given his
Yeah,
military background.
that, yeah, and that unintentionally, I think, and I do honestly think it was unintentional,
Yeah,
isolated Elliot because of it. However, when Elliot talks about, why he was adopted, he says that his parents had, or I don't know if he specified like mom or dad or who. I don't know if he specified. I don't think he specified, but he said how his parents dropped him off at the hospital.
his birth mom, abandoned him at the
Yeah,
hospital.
yeah, and then his mom adopted him or his adopted mom so Billy's wife adopted him after that.
Yep,
Technically, he does not specify that he was abandoned as an infant.
true. I
It
mean,
is it is not clear.
yeah, and hospitals and fire department are considered safe havens. You can drop a child off
Yeah, no
at any
question
age,
asked.
no questions asked, and you sever all ties at that moment, legal binding to them.
Yeah. So
If,
it doesn't.
even if it's for a little bit, they go into foster care and then they can get adopted, or you can pick them up from foster care when you're more financially stable.
Yeah, well, in this case, at least my suspicion, because I can't see any other way to interpret Elliot's reaction to this abused kid other than he was a victim of child abuse himself, which I think everyone went with for a long time. And there's even a lot of fanfics about, Elliot's abusive past. But then meeting his adopted dad, it seemed like the pieces weren't fitting, which is how I came up with this theory that Elliot's bio parents did adopt him. Or, oh, no, sorry. Elliot's bio parents did abandon him. Or maybe they like took him to the hospital because he got hurt bad after beating the shit out of him. And so he got taken away. But he remembers it in his head as that was the day his parents abandoned him and his adopted family adopted him.
Yeah,
Because remember, trauma fucks with memories. And we also don't know how old Elliot exactly was when he was adopted by his adoptive family. So that's my theory, at least. Which kind of makes sense. Like why Billy would be the way he is, and also why Elliot acts this way in this episode. So that's my theory. But carrying on. So there's a guest crasher, and Sophie has to play her other character. It was funny. Sophie starts bitching about having to play 6 parts during like one show, and she's only playing 2 in this con.
yep.
Yep. So Charlie's getting a bit suspicious as he's in the morgue. And Hardison is snooping around the car, opens the trunk, finds duct tape and a lie.
Of
So
course, he finds duct tape.
Hardison's like, hey, like Charlie ain't a fed because he knows Elliot was supposed to be going with Charlie to search the one area. However, Elliot has it put back in his daggum comm so he doesn't hear Hardison's warning. So he walks in and all like, I'm just a friendly neighborhood cop. However, Charlie's putting a silencer on a pistol. But luckily, Hardison saves the day with the Star Trek reference by paging Dr. Ralph O'Con, which is a reference to the Star Trek movie Wrath of Khan.
I giggled. I giggled when I heard that. Watching that episode, I was like,
So Elliot fights off Charlie as he gets and he does the classic finger come on thing. I find sexy every goddamn time.
I know.
And what's funny is there's another blooper where it's like they must have been just listening with the table is that like sliding down at the morgue things. And Christian Tank, there's like an upper shot of it. And Christian's just sliding out like, what's up, bitches? Love that one.
Oh, I forgot that's what that blooper's from. Oh, that's one of my favorite bloopers from from the season. And it's like he gets real close to the camera too.
When we do season 2 finale, I'll have to do like we'll have to do it like a watch of the blooper, just a blooper reel for fun. But yeah, so basically he escalates things even further in his part of the con by pretending to be sick himself and explaining that it was this like there's a program that the Soviets had and someone's reactivated it, which is where we get Order 23 from because that's one of the voice recordings Hardison made was saying this is military order 36 or something like that. So and Parker or no, so Hardison. And what's funny is Elliot takes care of the marshal. I think putting him in the actual like morgue or put him in like the tray on the that goes into the morgue. And as soon as Elliot puts his comm in, Harrison's like immediately on him. And they get sitting around, bitching about stuff. And they could have any feelings. And it's like, Jesus. And it's like, have you been talking this whole time? I was like, well, I wouldn't have had to if you didn't take it out, if you hadn't taken out your damn car. But anyways, now there's a new problem as Bob's now going to investigate the floor that they took over. So Parker goes in, gets Eddie out with the promise of money. And of course, Arson and Elliot are immediately arguing when they get back together, when they meet back up. And Elliot decides to use this opportunity to try and talk to the kid as the cops are pulling up. Because now it's all bets are off because Bob called it in. An escape prisoner. So Elliot's talking to the kid, and through talking with the kid, Randy, he finds out that the kid can't talk to the cops because his dad knows them all. And what's interesting is you can see Elliot almost disassociate, but then Hardison goes to touch his shoulder because Hardison's like, we got to go because, cops are descending on the place and they didn't want to be around when the cops start investigating everything. And when Hardison grabs Elliot's shoulder, Elliot goes to rear up to punch him, but then he realizes Hardison and stops, which is interesting. And goes into the theory more that Elliot was abused as a kid. And this time, Parker gets tased instead of doing the tasing. So it turns out Eddie hid the money in a janitor closet at the courthouse, and Parker gets to knock him out. Well, not knock him out, but not give him a clock him a good one. And Parker turns out was wearing a vest underneath her scrubs that like absorbed the taser. My guess is it's a bulletproof vest that she's wearing. Because that would make sense with like the metal plate that's in bulletproof vests.
Yeah, it's thick enough that
Like,
it can absorb a taser.
it would absorb the taser. Oh, it's funny. Eddie starts fucking laughing like a madman. It's funny. It's Elliot told him about the car. He's like, "What's so funny, Eddie?" And Eddie's like, I'm just thinking about all the crimes you committed today, and like I remember faces." And then he runs out seeing like. Then he runs off, and what's funny is like Elliot, like he starts running, and Elliot looks at Nate, and he's like nodding his head, like, "You want me to go?" And it's just like, "Nah." I was like, "Okay." And they start walking away because Eddie runs out onto the street, gets arrested by the cops, and of course, it sounded like he's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, they tried to think I was dying. So he gets arrested, and then once Eddie gets, taken away, he explains that the reason why the plan works is they need to show they basically are setting up the Eddie to get arrested for escape, but that he was basically so there's like the act itself, and then there's the guilty mind aspect of it. So basically, they set it up so Eddie wanted to escape, and they made him sound so crazy that no one would believe his story, which is what happens. And what's funny is Sophie explains, so like if a prisoner was taken hostage during an escape, he wouldn't be found guilty of escape. What's funny is Hardison calls her a kiss ass. Where it's like, it's not very nice, Hardison, but I mean, so anyways, Elliot. So then we see Elliot, Hardison, and Bob and Marshall Bob. They go to the morgue. Hardison acts like he just got off the phone and is like, "Yeah, like we got the guy." She's like screaming about the plague or something. I don't know. And then they pull out the drawer that has fake Marshall Charlie in it. Elliot punches him out again when he tries to wake up. And Hardison freaks out and walks away. And luckily, Elliot kind of sets it up where he gives this like glowing report because I was like, I've never had a prisoner escape, and like it's been like is upset about it. Elliot's like, that's not how I say it. Then he gives him this like glowing report, like, and then we let Hitman infiltrate a team in order to protect a cooperating federal witness, and like essentially let Robert take the credit, and in turn of course, mom's like, if anything you need, let me know. And that's when and Elliot calls in the favor because he hands a piece of dad's ID to Bob to give him. So Bob actually does. He goes to the kid's house and, you know, takes Randy and puts him in a cop car or puts him in a car. And the last shot is of Elliot watching everything, looking all brooding. But that's the final shot. I mean, it's a somber end to this episode because you could tell this job like hit for Elliot due to the fact that he probably grew up around like that kind of life, small town. Everyone knows everybody. Now everyone knows, like probably everyone in a small town knew all of the, knew all the cops. You probably had friends who knew were getting the shit beat out of them by the parents, but there was nothing they could do because everyone knew the cops. And so no one would do anything. Which that could be another angle they're playing with this, is he just like grew up around that lifestyle. Or not lifestyle, but grew up around that type of environment where he would recognize what abuse looks like. Yeah, that is actually all my notes. Do you have any more notes, Lex?
Nope.
Any final thoughts? Anything you think we might have missed talking about?
I keep flashing back to the freaking blooper with Elliot.
Oh, going like, what's up, bitches?
That was stupid and also really, really hot. I don't know why.
Well, I mean, it's Christian King cursing. Of course it's going to be.
I mean, and seeing his ass in scrubs. Hot damn.
But I honestly do. I mean, I don't. I mean, I'm not going to speculate because I don't know what goes on in Christian Kane's mind. To be fair, I don't think anybody does half the time. But I do honestly think that he was not a fan of his role in the Crooked E. I think he did get to play a little bit of music.
No,
so
I actually watched an interview with him and he talked about it. He actually liked it. The one that you're thinking of is Close to Home. He hated that movie.
He literally asked to be killed off Close from Home because of how much he hated that fucking role. Which, I mean, to be fair, I understand why he hated it. He was promised the role of a musician.
And then it was switched.
And then it was switched to like the stay-at-home dad, which there's nothing wrong with stay-at-home dad. That just wasn't the role that
I even tried watching it, but the writing was so bad on it, so I could see why he wanted to be.
Yeah, that's why he didn't.
But with the Crooked E, he loved it.
And he did actually like it.
Look, he even said in an interview, he's like, yeah, the Crooked E was local lore growing up in Oklahoma and Texas for him. Yeah. He's like, I grew up when that happened. I watched it happen.
Yeah.
I was around when it happened.
Yeah.
It was a big deal.
Yeah, but I do know those are so there's only two roles then that I know Christian Kane absolutely hated. That was
Close to Home, and then one other one. I can't remember what it was.
And he hated playing Lindsay McDonald and Angel.
Toward the end, yes, but at the beginning, he loved it.
But it was at the end, apparently, because that's when Josh Whedon
was the day.
That's when him being an asshole was really came out.
But he was like, yeah. He was like, I loved the beginning of that, but toward the end it was just, yeah, you were butting heads, and he was like, "Yeah, just kill me off or do whatever you want. I'm done. I can't do it anymore."
Yeah, and then I think the series finale actually do kill him off.
Nope. He
They
gets in
do.
his truck, which is his actual truck, and drives off.
He drives off, but I thought there was a scene later.
Nope.
But I guess I
He
couldn't.
packs up his truck and his guitar and everything and says goodbye to Angel and drives away, leaving LA forever. That's how
Yeah,
they end it with him.
and I mean, I know he was with David Borealis and the actor who played Angel, and I think the one of the other actors who played a character later in the show, and he's still good friends with James Marsden, who
Um,
played
and
Spike.
then
James Marsden
oh,
will here.
one of his best friends who isn't with us anymore, Andy Hallett played on.
Oh, Andy, that's what his name was. I can't
Yep,
believe I forgot that.
who played Lauren, the green guy. I
Was yeah,
loved him.
dude, he was green. I just
Yep,
cannot remember the name for the life
yep.
of me. But no,
But the
is there
episode when they react to him to Lindsay singing, fucking priceless.
I still love that song. I think they just called it a song,
Yeah,
but it's like it's pretty as a picture.
but
But
no,
yeah,
when he wrote that song for the show,
yeah,
it was called "Pretty as a Picture." It didn't
pretty.
have a name at the moment, but he
It's
just called
on
it "Pretty as a Picture." And then later on,
it's on Spotify as
yeah,
LA song.
it's on their actual soundtrack for the first season for that season of Angel. And then they gave it the song LA, the title LA song later on.
Yeah,
But yeah,
pretty sure.
seeing Christian play guitar in that movie, in that show, that episode, I
Yeah,
giggled. I was so happy.
yeah. But funny, and I'll do a real quick funny story before I wrap up. So, there's a story. So apparently, because Christian Kane hated working on Close from Home, he asked to get killed off. How that happened was apparently he was day drinking, playing golf with a couple buddies, which, as we all know,
Fucking
the best
Oklahoma.
ideas happen when you're day drinking with the boys. So we gets a call from someone, I think producer, someone gets a call. He's like, okay, you know, like, or can you come in, film this scene? And Christian's like drunk off his ass. He's been day drinking. It's his day off. To be fair, it is his day off.
Yep.
His day off. And Christian's like, no, I'm not coming on my day off. In fact, he could just kill me off. Season 1 finale of Close to Home, they killed him off in like a car wreck, I think.
Yeah, it was like car wreck or something stupid.
Yeah. Like, I think that was originally what the type of roles Christian Kane was going for when he first started getting into acting, was the musician type roles. And it's funny. I still think it's funny how he went from doing like romance and then switched to action. And like now that's kind of where that's where his niche is now, is the action, because he loves it so much. And I know he loves
And
it.
to admit it, he won't admit it if you ask him, but he's a bit of an adrenaline junkie. And when he does action
He for
movies and action shit, he gets
he
an
for
adrenaline rush from it.
Yeah, and so he
I can
says,
see it on his face. He loves it,
he does. He does. It's
even
like,
though
yeah,
he's an old man. I mean, the boy has to wear padding now because he's been hurt so many damn times.
you know what? An electric con. He was half deaf in 1 year because of
Of
it was
an
it was
explosion or something.
arm
Something
or
happened.
wrist brace. Or it was I think
It
he
was
had
it
like,
was it was a wrist brace on his arm.
yeah, I think he just had like tinnitus or something.
Yeah, or probably twisted his wrist or something. Something
Yeah, I'm
stupid.
sure something stupid.
But the old man needs to quit
But
doing his own shit.
yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen. No one, no.
Oh, great! So he's gonna pull another. He's gonna be like Chuck Norris.
You're gonna be the one to tell fucking Oklahoma that he can't do stunts no more.
So you're gonna tell me he's gonna be like fucking Bruce Lee or fucking Chuck Norris doing stunts until he's 90? Oh hell no! Don't do it.
He might,
Oh god.
and you know what else we'll be watching? Have in all honesty, I was
But
a little
I do love him for that because it's more authentic.
confused with the spirits at Electricon, and it seems to be doing well. I mean, it was just at a charity golf thing, but I did like that, and actually once on actually during a panel at Electricon, he brought up how much he hated working with Josh Wheat. And I was like, oh, yep. But yeah, so I think that's going to wrap it up. Anything I'm forgetting? Any last thoughts?
um, just one. I love the fact that Christian and all the guys on the leverage team, they try to, like Oliver, Beth, everybody, they try to bring their A game to each and every episode.
They do.
And I can see it.
Uh-huh.
And it makes me love them more. They love the craft. It is evident. And then with our directors, our writers, even Dean,
Yeah, you
they
can
try to
tell.
bring their A game every episode, and every episode it blows my mind.
Yeah,
And I've seen the show how many times?
yeah, I mean, you can even hear it like Chris, Gina, Beth, and Elise Shannon. They were just doing promo for Leverage Redemption season 3, which releases in 2 weeks.
I'm so happy.
Me too. They were basically talking about how much they love working on the set, and it's like family, and like they talk about the craft. Like every single time they talk about it, they talk about the craft. And I think that's what makes Leverage stand out over other shows where it's actually not only run by people who enjoy the filmmaking process, but it's also acted by people
Who
who
love what they do.
who love what they do. Exactly.
And they have a passion for it. I mean,
Yeah.
Elise
Like,
is around our age, and she has the acting bug that Christian got when he was younger. And he can see it in her, and he's like, that's
like,
what we need more of in this industry.
yeah, and she was talking about how she learned a lot from everyone working on the set, and Beth, now she's directing and writing, or she is directing an episode in season 3. I don't know which one she is. She wrote one of the episodes, I think, in Redemption. She wrote the episode.
Yep.
And I guess in season 3, she's not producing. So she's also a really good photographer, and I think she's also like really good with the camera.
Yep.
So like she's like a
Because,
one woman army.
because what episode was it?
An
It was
army.
the LeVar Burton episode of Leverage Redemption.
It was the bucket.
Yeah, the
bucket
bucket job, the Christmas episode. And you can tell the camera angles were so good. Oh, that made me so happy.
She directed that one too. Yeah, she did direct it.
Yep.
And I just want to know how Dean manages to find all these ultra talented people, because like what the hell?
Because he's talented as well.
True enough. True enough.
And we love you, Dean.
Yeah,
If you're watching this, we love you.
we love you, Devin. Like I don't think I ever miss when it comes to casting. Like he's nailed it every single goddamn time when it comes to casting. And but yeah. All right, so I'm going to call it. Uh, all right, so I would like to thank our sponsor, Nepco.org. If you want to support the podcast, you can find our Ko-Fi at Films and Fandoms. We also have a Discord. The invite. This is the invite code. I'll leave it up for a second. All right. You could follow us on Instagram at FN Fandoms with Kaylee and Lex. We're now on Twitter. We're also on Twitter at FN Fandoms. We're also on Twitch at Films and Fandoms, though I just realized we're not going to be streaming on Twitch no more. Yeah, we're probably not going to be streaming on Twitch no more. But that's still there if we get to that point. We're also at Films and Fandoms. You could go on my website, kayleesantalactin.com. My Twitter is MissMovieFan_67. My TikTok is MovieFan67. Instagram, Alex's Instagram is Alex the Alley Cat. Her Twitter is Alex the Alley Cat. And same with her TikTok. And you could go support our good buddies at My Media Works to see their upcoming projects. So I don't remember what the next Florida episode is. Okay, so the next episode of Leverage we're going to be talking about is the fairy godparents' job, which is, of course, the perils of boarding school. I don't think it's a private school. I think.
Yeah, you know it's gonna be good because that episode is directed by my favorite actor ever, Frakesy.
I was about to say it was Frakesy.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. But we will figure out what podcast episode we're doing next when we're off camera.
Exactly.
That is all I have for today. Any last words, Alex, before I end the stream?
Nope.
All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see y'all next time. Oh, actually, one more thing. With Leverage Redemption Season 3 coming out in 2 weeks. Should I say it?
Yes.
All right. So I came up with this idea today. We're going to be doing live reactions through the season weekly as it airs. So
And that's gonna be chaotic and fun.
it is. So we're still working out the technical side of things, but I promise when we get to that point, I will share what we do. But
And if we decide after the first one, we don't have to do it after that.
yeah, because the first they released in the first 3 episodes at once, so who knows? It might just be a long episode.
It might be.
We'll see what happens, but we'll see y'all the next time.